Hello again, my name is Timothy Ziegler, and today I'm going to talk to you about how important the Second Amendment is and how gun control is not the answer to the problems that we face as far as when it comes to gun violence. So, hey, government, leave our guns alone. Okay, so if our government takes the guns, will that solve, gun problems, gun violence? Criminals no longer have guns, correct? Yeah, think again. And maybe in a utopian paradise, but in the real world, it'll just leave you defenseless. The bad guy will come. You won't have a gun. He will. Now, as far as it goes, the Second Amendment is there not only to let you hunt or anything like that, but also to protect against criminals and the possibility of a tyrannical government. That's why we ran away from England, to escape that. And that's why the founding fathers put that in our Second Amendment. Now, today we will talk about the Second Amendment, what it means, and why gun control doesn't work. And as far as mass shootings go, as far as banning assault weapons, why that doesn't work. So sit back and enjoy the rest of the show.
All right. Now, to start this thing off, we're going to talk about the Second Amendment itself. Okay? So, the Second Amendment promotes the right to keep and bear arms. So, you have the ability to have your gun technically toted around. I mean, there's been a lot of regulations through the years, but technically that's what it promoted at first. It also promotes the right of a well-regulated militia, and it's for a free state. So, basically, to keep you away from tyranny. So this way, your government don't go rogue and try to take over. That's a big one to me, because you never know what's going to happen. Hopefully, it never happens, but you never know. And some believe that this right should be restricted due to their interpretation of it. But I think it reads very clearly. But they believe this because of what they call the collective right theory. Basically, that theory states that because it says the right to a well-regulated militia, that the state has the ability to regulate that militia, essentially creating, to me, what would be like the cops, or like a small army instead of a militia. The militia is by the individual. Now, our forefathers, they fled tyranny in order to create individual rights. So for me, that whole thought process is out the window. So this is basically the gist of the Second Amendment. People can interpret it however they wish or whatever, but these are the words that come straight from there. The right to bear arms, keep and bear arms, and the right to a well-regulated militia. That's pretty cut and dry to me. So now, what I'm going to talk about now is why gun control doesn't work. All right. So the first thing I'll mention is there's other nations out there, such as Britain or Australia. They've pretty much done away with any type of gun rights. But actually, the studies show that there really is no huge correlation on their shootings and their mass shootings dropping in anything substantial since they've done that. So that kind of, I don't know if it necessarily debunks it, but it definitely doesn't make it a strong argument against. Also, 2/3 of the gun-related deaths are by suicide. So when they take their numbers, they take that into account for gun deaths. But 2/3 of them are suicide. So that's something that you wouldn't be able to control. I mean, you could take away the guns, people will hang themselves. It's sad, but that's just the way it works. And the next highest is gang-related, between males the age of 15 to 34, and it's really an inner city problem. We have young males out shooting each other. It's a cultural thing. People are trying to establish dominance, and so that's another one of the next highest is the gang related. Following by 1,700 women a year are murdered, and they're murdered with guns, mainly due to domestic violence. Now, as far as gun protection, that stuff they don't tell you is that self-defense is one of the biggest uses of guns. And the good thing about self-defense is 98% of self-defense, there's never even a shot fired. They use self-defense to protect themselves. They pull the gun, and most of the time, you see a gun pointed at you, you comply. That's usually how it works. I mean, unless you're on drugs. And as far as the numbers and them saying, violent crimes are on the rise, like when people try to portray this, actually, the violent crimes has actually decreased since the Reagan administration to where we're at today. So it's not as bad as we portray it, but it has really become a political situation. So that's some of the reasons why I don't think gun control works personally. All right, now the final topic is banning an assault weapon. Is that the answer? I know they're big scary guns, right? Assault weapon, right? This is actually the classification of assault weapon is kind of made up. It's not really a real thing. They classify an assault weapon as anything that has a pistol grip or a bayonet at the end, or it's blacked out and it looks really tough. But technically, you can have the same gun. It could be a Ruger Mini 30. That's just a rifle that's used for hunting, or it could be a Ruger Mini 30 that's blacked out with the pistol grip, with the attachments, and all of a sudden now it's an assault weapon, but it functions exactly the same. So let's not get that twisted. Assault weapon, that's what an assault weapon is. Now, as far as mass shootings, though they're tragic, and especially now I decided to talk about this. Unfortunately, we've had a couple, and it's very tragic. But although being tragic, they're actually one of the lowest gun rate deaths when you look at the grand scheme of gun rates. I mean, they're very rare on the grand scheme of things. There's a lot of things that are a lot higher, but like I said, it's tragic, and you know, we always hope that they don't happen. Now, mass murders, though, they can be committed several other ways other than using assault weapons. As a matter of fact, Adam Lanza, when he went in and did the Sandy Hook shooting, he used a mere handgun. Now, they found assault rifles later on, but the handgun is what he actually used, and it was a massacre. So to say ban assault weapons, well, all weapons pretty much are capable of the same thing. They're semi-automatic. Most 90% of them on the market, they're semi-automatic. So when you go to buy them, they're going to function the same way. You pull the trigger once, it shoots one bullet each time, and as fast as you pull the trigger. That's how semi-automatic works. Now, as far as what I think needs to happen, I think we need stricter mental health checks. You know, I mean, I do agree with that. That not actually imposing on our gun rights or trying to ban assault weapons. I think that we need stricter mental health checks, and I also think we need to reopen a lot of mental health institutions that we used to have that we closed down in the 80s. You know, I noticed, especially in my line of work, I noticed that we're just throwing everybody in jail. They have mental issues, we throw them in jail, and that's the answer. So, to me, there's a lot more underlying solutions to this other than banning assault weapons or trying to create regulations on guns.
So as I conclude today, basically I just want to kind of pause and say that I don't believe that gun control is the answer. I mean, I know everybody's going to have their opinions, and that's okay. But I don't think that when you look at the stats and all the evidence, I don't think that that's the answer. I don't think that's the answer to violent problems, to gun problems. I think that we don't have a gun problem. We have a societal problem. I think the answer is to basically it'll start in the home or in the church or in your communities. You know, we need more mental health facilities. We need to, you know, raise a culture that's more considerate, more humble, you know, that realizes that their actions have reactions, and they need to be able to take responsibility for what they do. And the main thing that they need to understand, you need to instill it from childhood on, is that life is precious and not to take advantage of that. So hopefully we can move on as an American culture in order to do that, rather than try to take away people's rights and play political games. Let's work together to make a better world.